So I got this jacket at the thrift store for about $8 and I spruced it up to make it into a FNAF jacket. The patch on the front was the first thing that I did, and the process of how I converted the logo into an embroidery file and had it embroidered is a whole other video by itself. But I used the embroidery machine and I ended up with this little logo that I just hand stitched onto the front. For the design on the back, I found this image of the original band. But I'm really big into symmetry, and I didn't like that Golden Freddy was just sitting off to the side like that, so what I decided to do was just crop him out of the image as best as I could. And then I found another image of Golden Freddy without any background and pasted it on top of the original image. And then I just kind of resized him and moved him around in front of Freddy and Bonnie until I was happy with how that looked. Once my design was ready, I needed to trace it onto my template. The easiest way for me to do this was just to tape it to my laptop and trace over that, kind of like a light box. As long as I didn't trace too hard or use a mechanical pencil, it didn't damage my screen at all, and I was just able to trace right onto that stabilizer. Then I stuck it onto the jacket, and it has an adhesive back, which helped it stick, but the stickiness was not quite enough, and I ended up having to add a couple basting stitches to hold it in place. And now came the longest stage of the jacket, which was the hand embroidery design on the back. I might make another video or a blog post about how I did this embroidery exactly, but for now, let me just say it took a very long time. I spent about 2 months on this jacket. I tried to do the math after the fact, and I believe it came out to about 100 hours spent on this jacket. Every spare moment I had, I was embroidering this jacket. At home, in the middle of the night, at school, in between my classes, even during my classes. When I have a lecture, it helped me stay focused just to do something. I seriously had people come up to me as I was sitting in the hallway and comment that they would see me there every day working on this jacket and making more and more progress. And they would always ask how many hours I'd spent on it, and I did not know for the longest time. I would just tell them it's been a month. It took a very long time, but I do think it was worth it in the end. It turned out very beautiful. I'll give you some tips for those who ever want to do a project similar to this. Get yourself a really good thimble. The calluses I have from doing this over 2 months with really thick denim fabric is insane. So get yourself a really good thimble. It will help to push that needle in less painfully. Tip number 2, check your work as you go. I would just flip over the jacket every once in a while to make sure that the thread wasn't tangled up in the back and my stitches were still going okay, because you really don't want to do a whole chunk of your embroidery and your design and then turn it over and realize you have to undo it all over again. So just kind of check as you go, better safe than sorry. Once I was finally done with all of the embroidery, I had to take off the template. So I undid the basting stitches that I had to hold them in place. And I originally tried to rip it off, but I realized that was a bad idea, and I really did not want to risk tearing my stitches. So I ended up just taking my scissors and cutting around the design as close as I could get without actually cutting into the stitches. Now, fortunately, the template was made with water-soluble materials, which made it very easy to remove. So I just filled up the tub and soaked the jacket in water. And yeah, I used a bowl to pour water over the top. That way I could get the design really cleaned off. And I really started getting excited because I could really see how the jacket was finally going to look. So originally, this is where I had planned to stop with the jacket, and that was going to be the final result. But after looking at it, I realized that I wanted to make a couple more changes because it was a little too big for me and I wanted it to be more fitted. So I ended up raising the shoulders and shortening the sleeves. And I also took it in at the waist in both the front and on the sides in order to give it a more tailored and curved look. One other change I made was ironing down the collar and sewing that to the front so that it laid flat rather than just having a straight small collar, which I didn't really like the look of. I like it to be folded down. Then the final step, I added this piece of fabric that had interfacing on the back. And I ironed that on the back of my jacket to protect the embroidery design, and I cut around it so it fit the shape of the jacket. And I was finally done.